All right, welcome back, everyone, to Communication Makeover. My name is Todd Wall, and again, we look for the intentional communication that leads to the breakthrough that you're looking for, both in your business and in your life. I'm loving this topic we're talking about today with every single one of us. I mean, I think majority of people I've talked to say, people say I need to write a book. We've got that burning inside of us of that message that has to come out. And as you've heard so far in the conversation, there's a lot of barriers to think through of not only who can publish this book, and we saw the different avenues, but then how do I, if someone's not going to lead me through it, how do I then lead myself through this scary forest, through through this maze and this labyrinth? How do I get to that ultimate outcome? It's confusing and it's scary, and oftentimes most of us, we end up with kind of stuffing that book down in that lower place, and ultimately we get to that place where I feel embarrassed. I feel ashamed of myself. I feel like I had something inside me and I didn't share it with the world. So the encouragement of this episode today is an intentional path will lead to an intentional outcome. Because there's always barriers that stand in front of us, but there's always a path through or around those barriers. I'd like to bring Brian back on. And Brian, I'd like to continue this conversation with you a little bit, because you and Deirdre, you uncovered some great things in terms of which type of publisher, and then even if you self-publish, how do you motivate, and what are some very tactical things you can do there? I found that you found some really good things, but I ended up with a couple of questions, of key questions. One of the things that kept coming up is special. I kept hearing you say the content is special. There's something about it that's special. I'd like to begin to talk through that ultimate motivator. When people move past a hurdle, they run into a burning building, it's because there's a cause they're fighting for. What makes this special? So first off, talk to me. What is the general idea of the book that's burning inside of you right now?
Yeah, it's really about talking through how to navigate being a freelancer, a solopreneur, independent contractor as a equally viable career path compared to being a 9 to 5 full-time employee, or being a business owner in the traditional sense of, starting a software company or running a couple pizza shops or whatever it may be, and really trying to illustrate the ways you can navigate as a professional and be a freelancer, and basing a lot of this on the stories of others that I look up to and have done really interesting things and built really dynamic careers in this space. And then also on my experience, I've been freelancing it'll be 12 years this June, and that's the special. I appreciate you kind of picking up on it.
Yeah.
This is the book that I wish I had when I was first considering this direction and saying, is this something I can do? Is this, often freelance is thought of as like a stopgap or isn't taken as seriously. And
Mm-hmm.
I want to help folks navigate it on their own terms.
Yeah, if I can paraphrase back to you, I hear you saying, the traditional route, almost like that industrial mindset of getting in and working the factory, in essence, that 9 to 5. But just like Robert Frost, he said, two roads diverged in the forest, and I took the one less traveled by. It feels like you're shining a light on a path that's growing and more people need to know about. Is that correct?
Yeah, for sure. It's becoming more viable every year with technology, the way the economy shifting, the challenges of the job market. Like one thing that folks have always told me is like, "Ooh, don't you feel like you don't have job security as a freelancer?" And it's really, I don't wish this on anybody, but it's been interesting to see all the layoffs across tech, which has been a vibrant career option for many years. And with many circumstances at play in the US at least, layoffs have become more and more common, and something where all of your professional and financial security is focused in on can be taken away without notice, without any wrongdoing of yours. And I've been really lucky, and through a lot of hard work as well, have found great career security in freelancing because
Yeah.
you're getting your income and your creative output and collaboration from a variety of sources.
So it
So I
sounds
think
like there's
there's
a
never been a
myth you want to
time,
dispel. There's a myth you want to dispel almost.
for
That
sure.
myth of
I think,
instability.
yeah, and just I was talking about this recently, and like in school, you're taught, that you could potentially open a business or work at a company 9 to 5 and be a full-time, member of their team. Both are excellent career paths, but and it's not to say freelance was completely, um, you know, shelved, but it just doesn't get the same airtime. And I'd love
Hmm.
to help kind of correct that with this book, and most of all, focus in on how to do it.
So you feel like it's more stable than people think it is. What's the other thing you want people to know about this? The difference in these two paths of why this is an okay path to take. What else, what's something else? If it was a yeah, they had cancer and this is the magic pill. What's the magic pill?
I think the most appealing aspect for most amount of people would be the flexibility that freelancing offers.
Okay.
It can be called independent contracting, being a solopreneur, whatever term you want to use, but you get to decide a lot of the circumstances of who you work with, what kind of work you provide, your pricing, the time of days you're working. Are you meeting these clients or collaborators or whatever? Are you selling products on Etsy as part of your mix? You
It's
get to set all the
pandemic
terms.
proof.
Exactly. Exactly. So flexibility is I've heard that again and again and
Yeah.
again from folks in all different careers being like, ooh, I want to be paid, I want to do valuable work and be appreciated for my work, but I also want to have some higher degree of control and agency. And without a doubt, freelance as a career path gives you a lot of that
So,
flexibility.
what was the key thing that you would lead people to do in order to take that agency, that control, so they have that flexibility and they actually do have more stability than they thought? How do they take control? How did you take control? And what would you be recommending?
I mean, a first step for anybody trying to go down the freelance path, of course, you do need some experience in a full-time role first, even if it's just a couple of years. It just doesn't typically come out of nowhere. But one of the best things you can do is publish your ideas in public spaces on a consistent basis.
Hmm.
So whether that's letting people know about your expertise about pottery on Instagram as a side kind of hustle, or you're sharing your knowledge of semiconductors on LinkedIn
Yeah.
and the kind of advancements in that
Begin to
space.
share that expertise. Hey, Brian, can I shift with you just a little bit, especially due to time? Who needs to hear this? And what are they feeling by being on that other path?
People who know they have the ability to take a stronger control of their careers, to um, build a dynamic professional life that reflects their dreams, aspirations, and work ethic.
Hmm.
They might be feeling that it's murky,
Yeah.
impossible, difficult to navigate. I felt a lot of those feelings when I started,
Yeah.
almost 12 years ago. But without a doubt, just like any other career trajectory, there's um, a very clear cut path to follow. I hope in the book that I eventually write that'll be
Yeah.
helpful for navigating that
What
on
hap-
your terms.
what happens if they don't? What happens if they just stay the path?
That's okay too. I
Okay.
think you can find, I don't think, I want to stress, like, I don't think freelancing is for everybody or everybody
Hmm.
has to go out and do this.
But
If you're
but
yearning
for
for
those
more
you
control,
but for those, like you said, they're yearning for more control. They've got that message inside them. They've got that something. They know it's in them. Tell me about that person. What happens if they don't do it? Is it a dream deferred? Is it potentially going to explode inside of them?
I think most freelancers or maybe even business owners, owning a company or starting a company, they'll always say, I wish I had started sooner. I wish I had taken the leap
Yeah.
sooner. And it's
Yeah.
all about, at least from my perspective, is limiting the amount of regrets we have at the end of life. And I don't typically think of my career as pretty high. I'll think mostly about my family and loved ones and all that kind of good stuff. But you don't want to have big lingering regrets, and that's
So
something I would call out.
so let's say 1,000 people read this book. At the end of your days, if you were able to say, I helped 1,000 people not live with regret, how would that feel?
Comforting,
Yeah.
good, that it made people happy.
Yeah. How would it feel to keep that feeling? Would it help you motivate past that accountability stage of getting this thing out there? If you understood my goal is 1,000 people to not live with regret anymore.
Yeah, that could certainly help on the days, especially when it gets harder. There's going to be points where it's easier than others to push through and be more accountable to myself and others. And I think that would be, yeah, that would definitely help with the motivation on my end. So I don't have any regrets about
Yeah,
not making this book to help others avoid regrets. So reciprocal cycle there.
I love that. I hope that was helpful. Thanks for being with us today, Brian. I mean, just talking through this puzzle that so many people deal with, from the publishers to motivation to ultimately, who are we fighting for? And was this beneficial for you today, Brian?
Yes, thank you for taking the time. It was interesting to hear it reflected back.
Good, good, good. Thank you so much. All right, everybody, that's it for this week. Join us next week. I want to encourage you to be intentional, be courageous, and build your path of intentional communication. That is where you're going to get your breakthrough. We'll see you next week.